Ole Gunner Solksjaer, the former Manchester United manager, has been speaking with Sky Sports, the Overlap Stick to Football wonderful programme, about all things, mainly focusing on his time as Manchester United manager. Going to just run through some of the key things he said there. Feel free, Flex, to add some things that I might have missed. Cristiano Ronaldo, that was a big talking point. The signing of Ronaldo, he admitted at the time, it felt like a good idea. In hindsight, should not have signed him. He spoke about Watford, his final game as at Watford, losing at half-time. He said, lads, I'm in trouble here. Who wants to play? Put your hands up and say, who wants to go out there and play? Who got subbed at half-time that game? Scott McTominay and Marcus Rashford both interestingly came off at half-time in that game. He spoke a lot about captaincy as well. There were a couple of times where a few players said they didn't want to be captain for a certain game. They're just some of the things, Flex, that he said. Anything else have I missed anything obvious there, Flex, do you think?
It was interesting to see him say he wanted to take a step forward with the team to try a different style, a different approach, not being on the counter-attack, trying to be on the front foot, trying to be positive. And the team just wasn't good enough to do it. The team wasn't ready to take that step forward. And obviously, of course, about Haaland and Bellingham, like you say.
And of course,
yeah.
He said he had Jude Bellingham in the building, and he had Bellingham there. They were showing him around. Obviously, they didn't end up signing him. Erling Haaland from a very early days. Yeah. Obviously, he worked with him in Norway before he moved to Salzburg. He was on to Man United, get hold of this
which weren't secrets. Like, we knew Bellingham had been in the building. We knew that Haaland, what happened there. That's what I mean about it. Wasn't surprising to hear all of these things. It was just interesting to hear his direct account of them and how they transpired for me.
£20 million he had the chance to sign Erling Haaland for.
Insane.
On Ronaldo, he said, I've thought a lot about this. The right thing was to sign Cristiano, but I think it would have turned out better for Cristiano and for us if he hadn't signed. Honestly,
so it wasn't the right decision.
Yeah, no, exactly. And also the captaincy as well, I think is a really interesting thing. That Ronaldo thing, I mean, looking back at it, I mean, obviously, I guess at the time everyone was so excited, but what did you think when United signed Ronaldo?
Like, when we signed him, I thought he was going to win the league. I thought he was going to win the league.
Really?
I thought he was going to win the league. Honestly, I'm not going to dress it up. I remember just doing, I was finishing off at Sky and seeing that he was basically going to go to City, and I got off air, got in the car driving back and listened to the press conference because Ollie was next. And I listened, I went, you basically said we've got a chance of signing Ronaldo. Because it's just like that.
They didn't mention this on the Overlap, but at the time, you all thought he was going to Man City,
That's what I mean. So it was, but then it was really, really quick. And he said it on the Overlap of how quick it was. And then all of a sudden, it started coming out. He's coming to United. And I'm not going to lie, like, as a fan, with what Ronaldo's done at United, he's a legend. The prospect of him coming back just completely clouded my head of like, but what would this actually be like? What does this actually mean for the team? What does this actually mean going forward? It was, it's Ronaldo, don't care. If you've got a chance to sign him, you have to sign him. It's Ronaldo. He's coming home. He's coming back. Like, and that first game he did play against Newcastle, it's in the stadium, mate, scored a couple of goals. It felt amazing. We started off really well.
You started that whole season
whole season really well. And he himself scored a lot of goals that year. I think 18 in all comps, or maybe in the Prem, actually. But he scored 18 goals. I remember that. And just the longevity and the dynamics of it. And Ollie's even saying during the Overlap interview when he's like, I agreed with Cristiano, like, you are getting on 37, 38. Every 4 games, we'll play you for 3 and we'll rest you for 1. But every time it got to that one game and I'd rest him, he'd just start kicking off. And Gary Neville's pushback, and rightly so, was fine. Behind the scenes, fine, moaning, but he would do it in front of the cameras, throwing the boots down. I remember at Brentford, he refused to put the jacket on, and under Erik ten Hag, then he started walking off, and it was a sad way for a GOAT of the game, a legend of the game, who can still score goals, by the way, to go out. So it was interesting to hear that. My biggest thing was the lack of culture at the club. When he starts talking about the mentality of some of the players and the characteristics of some of the players not wanting to take the armband. Players not wanting to do interviews, and looking at that and seeing the recruitment as well, some of the decisions that have been made, even the Jadon Sancho, we kind of skirted over that. I wanted to hear a bit more about that because we chased Sancho for 2 years, and I felt in the Overlap they didn't really push. I would like to have seen, but hang on a minute, no, you guys really went tooth and nail for Jadon Sancho. What on earth happened? Ollie just sort of said, yeah, I just couldn't really get out of him. No, I want to know. I wanted to know. So I did want more, but what he said, there were no surprises.
We know Man United for the last decade has been run terribly, away from the football pitch in terms of the football structure of it, the bad recruitment. It's been a mess, right? And a lot of experienced managers, your Van Gaals, Mourinho's have come and had a go. I guess Ten Hag, who came with a big reputation from Ajax, is struggling. David Moyes is someone that had great success at Everton and it didn't work out. Gary Neville once famously, exclusively said to me that Manchester United it's a good line, is a graveyard for managers. With Solskjær, do you think that's, because he finished second and third in his 2 full seasons and also got to Europa League final. Do you think that maybe the bigger picture, the bigger problem was the main reason why it didn't work out for him? Or do you think just looking at Solskjær as a coach, he just wasn't cut out to be good enough for Manchester United?
Yeah, I think he was cut out to
do... Was it a bit of both, maybe?
I think he was cut out to do the job he was tasked with.
The interim job, yeah, because he was never supposed to be the permanent manager.
Exactly, and because it went so well, and listen, I'm part of this. I was outside of loads of football grounds up and down the country singing Ollie's at the Wheel. Like I was, because in those moments they felt good. He said I was tasked with putting smiles back on faces,
which he did,
encouraging the players to be Man United players, express themselves. And he also says a quote which I can't repeat because of the profanities, but said that Ashley Young after one of the meetings said, "Thank God we're going back to just being Man United players. We can just go and express ourselves." And once he sort of reached the maximum ceiling of that, finishing second and third and, getting some big wins under his belt. And in COVID season, we had the best away record. I think it was like 17 or 20 games unbeaten on the road with no fans there. He did his job and nearly won the Europa League. But when it became about more than that, taking that step to really get into your managerial bag now, it's not just about vibes and good feeling and come on, it'll be okay.
There's got to be more to it.
It has to be a lot more.
Tactically, it wasn't a shit
and
enough.
That's what I'm saying. The revisionism's got to stop.
I'm fascinated to see what's next for him because it's been a couple of years now. He's been out of work.
Said he had a couple of offers.
I think he said a couple of offers. The only, in terms of further detail, I think he said, was it America? He said there'd been.
I don't know. He just said it wasn't right for him. Yeah, I thought he said it wasn't right for him.
Because when he was always a Man United manager, the thing would be, no other Premier League team would kind of have him. I'd be fascinated to know that. What is next for him? What sort of offers are going to come in for him, and how he might do at a club where there's not as much pressure on you as Manchester United? I just think his credentials of and his CV at the minute it's not that strong. He done, like I said, he done a good job at Man United in that period because of I think who he is to Man United. And I'm not going to take away completely like having a plan and that, he's done his badges. I'm not going to disrespect him in that way. He's a club legend for me. But he has to understand that the way he went out at Man United and the way it went, that's going to leave a stain. It is going to leave a stain. So I don't think he'll get another top job in the Premier League. No, not top job. Maybe a newly promoted side or a team lower down at best, but. I think it's like Championship or abroad. I don't see, MLS. Yeah, could he get a job in Spain? That's tactically, I just don't see it. I don't see it. But for what he was to Manchester United and what he brought in that short space of time to get us going and put smiles back on faces and to make us feel good again, respect him for that. And finishing second and third, and then you get Ronaldo, Varane, Sancho. It's like right. You got to go up. And I respect him because he basically said in those 3 games when we had to play Manchester City, Spurs and Liverpool, he said, right, at Old Trafford, the 2 games at Old Trafford anyway, City and Liverpool, I can't just sit back now. Like Man United fans deserve more. At home, we have to be on the front foot now. We've had a couple of seasons. We've got these players. And I don't have players that are actually tailor-made now to sit back on the counter and run all day for me. I don't have Andreas Pereira, I don't have Dan James and Lingard. Yeah. Lingard was in the squad, but you know what I mean? Not playing anymore. So I've got Sancho, got to be on the front foot. He's good. I've got Ronaldo. I've got Varane at the back. So I need to go for it. And the players felt that and they weren't ready for it. I've got to push you on the current Man United manager, Flex. I think in the previous hour, I don't know if it words in your mouth, but maybe you've always been pro Ten Hag and fair play, you backed him. Get me impression, are you now edging a little bit more towards the other way? With him March the 6th, the season's nearly over. Yeah. Do you have serious doubts now about Ten Hag's future? Serious doubts, and I can see why Ineos would want to change the manager. Do you want to change the manager? Yes or no? I'm not against it. So that's a yes. I'm not against it, but like I said, if he stays in a new structure, I wouldn't say that. Why have you done that? I wouldn't. But at the same time,
If they get rid of Erik Ten Hag, I wouldn't be like they've made a massive mistake.
Yeah, I just think with Ten Hag, I think he's a little bit out of his depth personally. I think when we're approaching 2 years now that he's been in charge, and me looking in, I've said this before on this show, but I'm just still not sure what the game plan is. Are Manchester United, is he trying to be a counter-attacking team? Is he supposed to be a team that he's trying to build up from the back?
Yeah,
and I then sometimes think when I listen to him give interviews, he sometimes contradicts himself. And I really think with the new ownership, a fresh start, I think the Graham Potter appointment would be really, really interesting, kind of long term, because I know you're shaking your head, but I know Chelsea didn't work out for him, but I don't think that's a reason. That doesn't make him a bad manager.
I think I'd rather give Ten Hag another season than get Graham Potter.
But what is the point in giving Ten Hag another season?
What's the point in getting Graham Potter?
Because I think he showed at Brighton that he's a good coach. I think he showed at Brighton that he's
but Erik Ten Hag showed at Ajax he's a fantastic coach.
He's done it in this country. He's done it in this country.
Erik Ten Hag's done way more than Graham Potter.
What, by winning the Dutch league with Ajax?
And
Graham Potter would do that.
And the pedigree in the Champions League of what even got. Like, this is what I mean about, like, the narrative will just shift. It will.
Well, then let me throw it back to you. Then you said that you're leaning towards Ten Hag out. Who do you want in as a new manager then? And be obviously realistically, don't say Pep or Klopp.
I like Julian Nagelsmann.
I
like him.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll have him.
What about De Zerbi? De Zerbi seems to be the one that I think, that's the reaction, isn't he? He's being linked with all these jobs, and he's kind of the one where people are a little bit. I'm fascinated by De Zerbi, because I watched Brighton play, and clearly there's no doubt he's a talented coach. In terms of the way, in between both boxes, they play football, they create triangles, they play free-flowing, fluent football, and they're great to watch. But at both ends of the pitch, defensively, he's been there now for a couple of years. They're so poor defensively, Brighton. I also think he's very passionate, he's very emotional, and I just wonder sometimes in interviews he can kind of snap with that. For me, it feels like he just needs a bit more time at Brighton, or even one more job before going to one of the big boys. But for me, there's no doubt that one day he will be a top coach. I just wonder whether it's a little bit too soon for him. But I definitely think that he's got the potential to be a top coach.
He worries me, at United, and he intrigues me at the same time. Yeah, it's almost like I want to see him get given the chance, but not at my club yet in case it goes wrong. Let me look first, see somewhere else, and then see. But again, you look at the Chelsea situation when they took Graham Potter, and it's like, just because you do well at Brighton and play this amazing football, the narrative's completely different. If you go to Manchester United and get bopped off the park like we have been, look at the scrutiny you get. If you do that at Brighton, it's, well, listen, they're still overachieving. It's Brighton. And that's no disrespect to Brighton, because it's true. Like, they've done fantastically well. But Graham Potter was doing this. Apart from, like, I'm not saying that De Zerbi hasn't kicked him on a little bit further because they're doing well in Europe. But Graham Potter was playing outstanding football at Brighton. They were on the front foot. They were playing good football. It's the same thing. He's gone to Chelsea and it's absolutely swallowed them up. And Chelsea's not the best example of a well-run club right now. They've got a lot of change, but he definitely wasn't the answer.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.